So today we're going to talk about the best books we've read last year, and I do apologize if you were expecting a book review, but hey, instead of getting one, you will get 5 book reviews, as usual, without spoilers, as I briefly go through the best books I read in 2020. And of course, I would love to hear about your favorite books from last year, so be sure to write your own list. It can be 5 books, it can be 10 books, 20 books, however many you like, in the comment section below. Now, I read amazing books last year, but I'm sure that I also missed out on some other, at least equally amazing books. I do love discovering new books, and you guys often put books on my radar that I wasn't aware of before. Now, 2020 was a strange year. For many people, it was an awful year, and 2021 is not looking particularly more promising. And I don't know about you, but I am glad to be alive. So at least I can discover and read great books. And that's what I'm here to do today. So let's talk about great books. Now, the only problem I had when I was compiling this list of my top 5 books is that I read so many amazing books in 2020 that it was extremely hard for me to reduce the list to just 5. So why only 5 books? Because A, everyone's time is valuable, and I don't want you to spend too much of your time watching this video. And B, I want to give you just the very best recommendations in this video. So I am just going to talk about mind-blowing, almost life-changing books. Okay, now if you're a regular viewer of my channel, I have good news for you, because I have only reviewed one of the 5 books that I'm going to talk about today. So hopefully you wouldn't have heard me wax lyrical about many of them. Okay, so let's do this, and I begin my ranking at number 5 with The Leopard, which is a masterpiece of Italian literature by Giuseppe di Lampedusa, and the only book on my list that I have already reviewed here on my channel. Now, if you are shocked that I've put such an amazing book at number 5, I would ask you not to read too much into the numbers I assigned to the books in this video. The order in which I've placed the books is mostly a reflection on the impact these books have made on me. And because out of all the 5 books, The Leopard is the one I have read most recently, it is still really fresh in my mind. And so fresh in my mind that in fact, I can't easily judge whether it has made a lasting impact on me yet. It is simply too early to know that, and that's why I've cautiously placed it at the bottom. Now, what is The Leopard? The Leopard is a historical novel about the decay of the Sicilian aristocracy in the late 19th century as Italy was becoming a unified nation, and that nation would also include the nearby islands of Sicily and Sardinia. Now, there's a lot to be said about The Leopard and its protagonist, the Prince of Salina, but I believe I've already said most of it in my recent review. So instead of repeating myself here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to link to that review so that you can check it out for yourself if you haven't already. But in case you don't feel like watching a 9-minute video review of The Leopard right now, let me tell you a few things about it. The Leopard is one of the few books that I have ever read that I would recommend to anyone. And I don't believe in blank recommendations, but I cannot fathom a reader who wouldn't enjoy The Leopard no matter his or her taste in books. Now, The Leopard has brilliant dialogue and memorable scenes. It is also your chance to learn a little about the Sicilian culture, unless you're Sicilian, of course, which is the Sicilian culture, as I have discovered reading this novel, fascinating and as ancient as anything else you'll find in the Mediterranean Sea or around the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, at number 4, I have The Overcoat, which is a short story by Nikolai Gogol. Reading this short story was not on my reading plans for 2020, and it came about as an impromptu buddy read with my good friend Sean, who also has a YouTube channel where he talks about books called Sean the Book Maniac, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that channel and with Sean. Now, Sean and I had planned to read The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri together, and we did, but we were both underwhelmed by that novel, so we decided to read the short story that inspired Lahiri to write her book. Luckily, I soon realized that The Overcoat had nothing to do with The Namesake in either content or style. So let me talk a little bit about it. Now, published in 1842, The Overcoat is the story of Akakievich Bashmakhin. He's a government clerk whose job is to copy documents by hand. He's completely devoted to his work. He lives alone, has no friends, but he excels at his job. However, nobody respects him, and he's often mocked by his work colleagues. Pure Akaki. Now, one day, Akaki decides to get a new coat, but he makes so little money that he has to save for a considerable amount of time before he has enough money to buy the coat. Now, The Overcoat is a tragicomedy with a non-entity as its main character. The story begins as a comedy, and I was sold on it from the first paragraph. Now, it's a shame, it is really a shame that I cannot read Russian, and I had to read the story in English translation because I am sure that a lot gets lost in translation, and I have read that Gogol wrote the story in a very specific language. But the fact that I was able to enjoy reading The Overcoat so much, even in translation, I think that's a testament to Gogol's skill as a writer. Now, I intend to read more Russian classics this year, and I've decided to include Dead Souls, also by Gogol, on my TBR for 2021, just because of how much I enjoyed The Overcoat. Now, at number 3, I have The Savage Detectives by the Chilean writer Roberto Bolaño. I spent most of the summer of 2020 going through some of Bolaño's books. I had the chance to read many books by him that I hadn't read before, like his famous posthumous novel 2666. But what I enjoyed the most was actually rereading The Savage Detectives. Now, The Savage Detectives was first published in Spanish in 1998, but it is also widely available in English translation. The Savage Detectives is a mind-blowing book and an overwhelming reading experience. It is an exuberant and an ambitious novel. Now, the novel has 3 parts. The first part, in the first part, we have a young Mexican poet, Juan García Medero, who has no parents and lives with some relatives of his. But he studies law, but he wants to be a writer. He meets a group of poets who call themselves the Visceral Realist. This part all happens in 1975. Now, part 2 is the longest section in the book, and it takes place between 1976 and 1996, so it spans 20 years. Now, this middle section is structured as a series of interviews with about 40 different characters. Now, in part 3, we go back to the adventures of Juan García Medero, the main character in part 1. Now, part 3, the last part, takes place in 1976, so chronologically right after part 1. Now, this is a beast of a book that has more than 40 different narrators, Juan García Medero in sections 1 and 2, and then the 40 other voices that speak in section 2, which I say is the longest. Now, if you've read Hopscotch by the Argentinian writer Julio Cortázar and enjoyed it, then you are more than ready to tackle The Savage Detectives. Now, this may border sacrilege, but I do prefer The Savage Detectives to this, and this may be generational. I am considerably younger than Madero and the other characters in The Savage Detectives, but I was alive in the 1980s and 1990s when a lot of that novel takes place. So The Savage Detectives speaks to me in a way that I find Hopscotch doesn't. I find this more outdated. But that could just be anecdotal and not altogether relevant. Something that puts The Savage Detectives higher in my estimation is its humor. Now, I've read The Savage Detectives twice already and always have a great time reading it. It's a kind of book that I think I could read about once a year or once every 2 years and never get tired of it. In fact, I'm seriously thinking of reading it again in 2021 and perhaps do a proper review here on my channel. But let's see how I get along with the 74 other books that I also plan to read this year first. Okay, at number 2 I have another mind-blowing novel, The Passion According to G.H. by the Brazilian writer Clarice Lispector, which was first published in 1964. Now, The Passion According to G.H. was written originally in Portuguese, but like most books by Clarice Lispector, it is also widely available in English translation. Well, what a book. The plot could not be any simpler, or in fact, any more irrelevant. A wealthy woman from Rio de Janeiro is alone at home. Her maid has quit the day before, so she decides to go to the former maid's bedroom to tidy up. But when she gets there, she doesn't find the mess she expected to find. But she does make an encounter that disgusts and fascinates her equally. The Passion, according to GH, is an introspective novel. What matters in this little novel is what goes through the narrator's mind. There's a little bit of Kafka, there's a little bit of Virginia Woolf, but Lispector's novel is unique. It is the story of a breakdown, unlike anything else I've read before. Now, I have to say that Clarice Lispector is not for everyone. You might find some of her writing confusing or too visceral. But if you get it, if you do get it, you're going to love it. Now, I made a video about Clarice Lispector and the books I have read by her back in 2020, last year. So I'm going to link to that video here in case you want to take a look and find out more about her and her books. That video, by the way, has closed captioning both in English and Portuguese because I wanted to make it more accessible for potential Brazilian viewers. Now, if I had the time, I would close caption every video in different languages, but right now, doing it in English is enough hard work, so yeah, I only close caption my videos in English, and I hope you do appreciate the work that goes into that. Now, okay, we've now reached number 1, and I have a novel from 1994 by the Italian writer Antonio Tabucchi entitled Pereira Maintains. Now, this great little novel has everything to appeal to me. It is an Italian novel, but it is set in Portugal, and I do love Portugal. So going in, I knew or I suspected I would enjoy it. But it is a lot more than that, of course. It is the story of an awakening. The main character, Pereira, is a cultural journalist from Lisbon. He's also an apathetic widower. The novel is set in the summer of 1938, and this is key, 38, Salazar is the fascist dictator that rules Portugal at the time. There's also a war between fascists and republicans in neighboring Spain. Italy is in the grip of fascists led by Mussolini, and Germany is ruled by Hitler, of course. Yet, Pereira doesn't seem to see what's going on around him. He's one of those people that doesn't pay attention to what goes on in politics. It's not that he's complicit, he's just ignorant of what is going on. But in the novel, in the course of the novel, Pereira will wake up to reality thanks to a young man he meets named Monteiro Rossi. Pereira Maintains is one of the best novels I have ever read, and one that I plan to go back to over and over. It is ostensibly simple and yet profoundly touching and relevant. Now, Pereira Maintains is an extraordinary novel, and I think you should read it. I think you should read it. And that's it. If you want to buy any of these books, any of the books that I've discussed, take a look at the description box for this video because I've linked to all of them, and I hope you like my list. But now I'd love to hear from you in the comment section below. So let me know your favorite books, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Juan, and I post a new book review every Saturday. The best way not to miss any of my reviews is for you to subscribe and turn on the notifications bell. This is all from me for now. I hope you are all doing very well. I hope you all do very well in 2021, and I hope to see you again very soon for more book reviews. Bye for now.